Take them out?
Okay.
Yeah, we have to.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today is the May 31st, 2018 East Fishkill Town Board meeting. We have a special guest here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, the East Fishkill Troop 40 Boy Scouts. Could we all rise and they can lead us in the pledge?
Gentlemen?
Raise the flag, Scout salute, hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. I just want to introduce the Scouts who came tonight. If you could state your name, please.
Andrew Check,
Kyle Sherrill.
Osborne Owens.
Matthew Bracy.
Ryan Lugo.
Tyler Boise.
Thank you, guys. Can we get a round of applause for them, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. They got a meeting they got to go to. I appreciate you coming. Well, okay, that was nice. I just have a few announcements before we begin. Well, we had a crazy month. Everybody knows that East Fishkill, we're part of a little tornado or microburst in Wickapee, Stormville, Miller Hill area. It was quite an ordeal to deal with, and just like the storms in March, we had major communications with Dutchess County Emergency Management, Central Hudson, the Governor's Office, Dutchess County offices, all the municipalities in Dutchess County. I was on many conference calls, sometimes a few a day. The biggest problem this time for East Fishkill was by John Jay High School. There is a substation called the Shenandoah Substation, power substation, and that was severely damaged. So Central Hudson had to get National Grid out here to assist them to do this fix. It was a very complicated fix, and they got them here, and it was a very coordinated effort, and I can't believe and I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate all the efforts from all the agencies that are involved, especially our fire department, our police department, our highway department. They did a phenomenal job, especially that Tuesday night of the storm. It was really crazy, and we're really blessed to have such dedicated employees and volunteers. It's they really went the extra yard, and we're very appreciative. Also, unbelievable support given to us from other municipalities and New York State. The town of Poughkeepsie and LaGrange, they loaned us chippers and other equipment, so thank you to the supervisors there, Jay Baisley and Alan Bell. Also, thank you to New York State Department of Transportation. Our state liaison, Dylan Miyoshi, he helped us get a crew down here for 11-man crew for 2 days. They were unbelievable. They were doing so much work. The highway superintendent was very happy with them. Of course, and also a huge thank you to the mayor of Poughkeepsie, Rob Rollison. He also helped us out. He sent down 2 crews, 11-man crew. I'm sorry, where am I? 8 days, they had 2 crews here. Log loaders, 10-wheelers. It was really unbelievable show of support, and we are very thankful. We helped them whatever we could. They had a few repairs to do, which we did on their equipment, and it was hard to find equipment because there was such a huge storm and all the equipment was eaten up very quickly. So I'm thankful that they did help us. And also a big thank you to National Resources. I called them at the beginning of last week to see if they could help us with brush drop-off, that we could utilize their parking lot. When I went up to see all the storm damage, I talked to dozens and dozens of residents, and they were asking about brush pickup. And brush pickup was really not doable because of our budget. And they wanted something close, and we wouldn't have our regular brush yard open till tomorrow, actually. We have a resolution tonight to award it, and they were very helpful. They opened up one of their big parking lots. We were there for 5 days. We did 587 loads were dropped off there. So You talk about shared services, this was the definition of shared services. We utilize both public and private assistance to meet our goals. And, you know, this is how we have to operate, because we don't have many highway dollars to spend there. We need it for road paving and road improvements. And even though the highway budget's going to take a hit with this, it could have been much, much worse if we didn't get the assistance from all the other agencies. And this is why our highway budget's such a moving target. You don't know what's going to happen. These storms could come out of nowhere, and it's very unfortunate that it costs a lot of money to clean this up. But this is for the town's safety, and that's paramount. Dutchess County Emergency Response has also indicated to me that this event did not meet the criteria for a major disaster. We won't meet the threshold for a Stafford Act declaration, which is when FEMA would give federal dollars to municipalities for major events like this. But we did collect, and we did send out information to New York State Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management, and hopefully we could meet the threshold for the state level, and maybe we could get a few dollars returned to us there. On Tuesday, May 8th, I met with the East Fishkill Historical Society. They gave me a list of what's going on there. That's a really nice group, a really hard-working group, all volunteers. I hope that people could come out there. They have their site on Palin Road, the Brinkerhoff House, and they are actually having an event this Sunday, June 3rd. It's their annual Strawberry Festival. It's from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and it's a great event for kids, so I hope people could get out there. I also met with the Hopewell Depot that same day. They also gave me an update of things that they're doing. They're putting up a covered pavilion at the site, and actually our highway department's going to help them. We have some very skilled men who know how to pour concrete very well, and they're going to help the Hopewell Depot with that. So that'll even make the site better. On Wednesday, May 9th, I mentioned this once before, Councilman Franklin and I met with our Veterans Committee here, and the new Dutchess County Commissioner of Veteran Services, Mark Coviello, attended, and that was great to meet him. We went through a few things about what services the veterans could receive. A lot of veterans don't even know what services they can receive, so we discussed how we could get the information to our veterans better and quicker. And they're actually going to hold their Dutchess County monthly meeting of the Veteran Services here in East Fishkill on Tuesday, July 10th from 6:30 to 8. I'll give more information about that as it gets closer. On May 14th, the deputy supervisor wasn't around, so Councilman Beepan assisted me with the meeting with the fire board commissioners. We discussed several problems and issues going on, especially our water improvement area project that we're doing in town. They wanted to be sure that there is fire flow with all these water projects that we do, because so the public knows fire flow is very important for a lot of reasons, not only for putting out fires, but it's also a driver for economic development, believe it or not. One costly thing that perhaps you might have to put in if you're a new developer are sprinklers in a building. And if you have fire flow, you may not have to do that. So that is it's advantageous to on a lot of levels. So we met with them and we went through a lot of things. We'll be meeting with them regularly. Saturday, May 19th, I attended the annual fire inspection dinner. It was nice the commissioners invited me to that. We had a great time there. I got to address all the members, or all the members that attended, and I let them know how important they are to our community. We're very grateful to have Firematic, EMS, fire police. All our first responders are unbelievable, and I let them know that the town of East Fishkill is appreciative, and that we couldn't have really done that storm as well on the 15th. Our police department said what an unbelievable job our fire department and fire police and EMS, everybody chipped in and did a wonderful job, so I let them know that. I also met with our Wappinger Central School District Superintendent, Jose Carrion, on Wednesday the 16th. We had a few good discussions. It was the first time I met with him, and I'd like to get a good rapport with him. We talked about certain issues that are happening in town that can affect the school district. And as projects move closer, I'll have more meetings with him. And it's important that the town board has a good relationship with the school district. So that was a good meeting. On May 16th, I also met with Global Foundries. We discussed a water assignment that the town wants. We've been working on a water assignment, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years now. We are looking to get 500,000 gallons a day, an assignment of water, and it's a very difficult situation to maneuver through the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority, the two-town water board. Joint water board. Dutchess County, it's a whole litany of agencies that it's difficult, but we're getting there slowly, but we're getting there. Hopefully, we can get the assignment soon that will help us with our economic development plans. And with water, tonight we'll be discussing, hopefully we have a temporary fix for Fishkill Plains water problem. I've spoken to the mayor of the town of Poughkeepsie, city of Poughkeepsie, and the supervisor of the town of Poughkeepsie, and they are the members of the Joint Water Board. They have unofficially allowed me to go forward with a temporary connection to the Dutchess County water line. On Tuesday, the engineer and I will be going up to Poughkeepsie to ask them officially for that approval. And then we only need to get the Dutchess County Board of Health's approval also. I'll be sending out a letter to the residents in Fishkill Plains soon to alert them as to what will be going on. And once we get this fixed, then we can do the rehabbing of the wells, which then we won't need the connection to the county anymore. On Friday, May 25th, which was a great day, was John Jay High School had a Memorial Day ceremony, early 7 a.m. at the high school. It was a really nice event. The John Jay Student Council and our own Manny Bacon Post from the American Legion, they performed the ceremony. The students lined most of 52 in all the entrance of John Jay with all American flags, and they did a ceremony at the flagpole. It was really nice. And about John Jay, tonight is their 50th anniversary. I went just for only 15 minutes. It started at 6 o'clock. I graduated 1993 from there. And since the town board, we have a meeting and we couldn't attend, I'll be inviting a member from John Jay High School next month to come and receive a proclamation that the town board will issue to John Jay for their 50th anniversary. Also, I'm finalizing the Business and Economic Development Board. Councilman Marinaro and I will be meeting with them in June, this month coming, and we'll get started with that committee finally. Also, I'll be meeting with the Mayors and Supervisors Association next week. One topic of concern is shared intermunicipal services. Like I mentioned before, the costs to the storm are very significant, and without the shared services that we receive, there would even be a larger cost to us. So I'm going to stress them that we need an intermunicipal agreement between all the towns, that in time of need, we will provide mutual aid for one another at no cost. I'll keep everyone posted on that progression, and I think that's it. Is that enough, Peter?
That's it?
I know you complain about my announcements.
Was right, those were cliff notes, we talked a lot more.
Yes. So with that, can the clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilperson Cassidy?
Present?
Councilperson Marinaro?
Present.
Councilperson Franco?
Present.
Councilperson Beepin is absent, and Supervisor Delisandro.
Present. Okay, thank you. Everybody received the April 26th and May 10, 2018 minutes? Any additions, subtractions?
No.
No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried, thank you. There's no additions to the agenda tonight. Okay, this is the part of the meeting. Any members of the public could come up and speak about any items on the agenda, any items in town, anything you want. So the microphone's open. Anybody could come up, please.
Nick, before we start with
Yep.
that, there's been some concerns from the town constituents regarding the Tom, Cablevision, Verizon. Some people still believe that we don't allow competition in our town. Do you mind give just a brief description of how the contract that we agreed on last time?
Sure.
And what
The
is the
only company that's ever come to the town for a franchise agreement, and a franchise agreement in cable is just the right to use our right-of-ways, the utility poles. The only company that's ever come to the town is Cablevision, and they do have an agreement with the town, and they pay certain costs for the public television access that we're on this evening. Many constituents of the town board always wonder why FiOS and Verizon aren't available. Well, Verizon only serves 2 small areas of the town, and many times we've reached out to them, and they're only interested in continuing FiOS where they have basic telephone service. And, you know, if they came to us and said, we want an agreement, we certainly allow it. Our franchise agreement is it's a non-exclusive agreement with cable, which means the town board can allow anybody in who wants to come in, but we don't control how they spend their money in infrastructure, et cetera.
So just to clarify, the contract that we agreed with Cablevision does not stop anybody
No,
else
it does not
to
prohibit
come?
the town board from allowing anybody else in.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's just a clarification for the community, that if any other company decides to do business in our town, we will welcome them. There's been an issue with the rising prices of
Correct.
one company. I expressed that opinion and that
Right.
meeting that we had. So, again, thank you for the explanation, and I hope this clarifies things for the community. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Councilman. I've received emails as well, and, you know, the town doesn't own the lines and doesn't prohibit anybody from coming, so.
That contract that we agreed, it does not stop anybody else to do business again, so.
Okay, anybody, any comments from the floor? Anything on the agenda? Anything in town? Hi.
Yes, hi,
How are you?
I'm Diana.
Hi,
I see you
Diana.
in church a lot.
How are you?
Anyway, I'm here to talk about the changing of the hours of the East Fishkill Recreation Center on Light
Yes.
Hill Road. Kind of upset about that. I've got a whole list of people that are also upset about that. I mean, we're the working class, and we like our weekends there. So many people enjoy the time there. You know, if you cut the hours there, and it's just not a good thing. I felt compelled to come in and talk about that.
Okay, I appreciate you coming. I did receive an email or two about it, and I'm going to respond to them. You know, nothing's set in stone. We had to make some cuts because we needed to save some money, but it doesn't mean we could keep the amount of hours that we have it open. We could still change the days if we have to. So I can talk with the rec directors, and if, you know, if the gym is open, I don't know, 50 hours a week, say, I don't know what it is, but maybe it doesn't have to be Monday through Friday. Maybe it could be a Saturday in there instead of a Monday or something else. We could look and see what is the lowest points of usage, and maybe we could change it.
Oh, okay, that sounds
Okay.
good. Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank
very
you.
much. You're welcome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, all.
Good evening, gentlemen. I want to thank Nick for providing some information in a very timely fashion. I called, and Gina had it ready for me, and it was very helpful, and, you know, actually didn't give me answers, but it gave me an opportunity to come up with some questions.
Okay.
Okay? And again, I do appreciate the timely response to the request.
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, and I know some of this relates to the number 6 resolution on the agenda, so still want to get there. My first question is the hearing that's being planned, is it going to include all 3 routes that were under consideration, or the one that the town is leaning towards, the number 2 option, I think, that was discussed by Scott at the...
Yeah, we
last
had
Thursday?
our water expert, John Lazzaroni, who gave the town board the options, and on resolution number 6, you said, right? That is for us to choose the one recommended by him, which was Route 2.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Looking at Route 2, and that would be the route that would be presented?
That is the route that we currently would look to
Present
do
at
if the
the pub-
board approves it tonight.
Okay. And two, are there going to be any town dollars being used for the project, for the water project for Worley Homes water connection? Any dollars that'll be coming from the town budget?
No, not general town, only in the district.
Only the okay, the homeowners,
That's right. Those who would benefit from the water.
okay.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yeah.
maybe we should just clarify for you, because I know you've been involved with Worley Homes. As you know, one of the first issues with the Worley Homes District is to develop a good supply.
Correct.
So this plan would be, this pipe would be built as part of the town's townwide water improvement area. So the residents of Worley Homes are only going to pay the share of the cost of the pipe for the amount of water that they use from that pipe. The rest of the cost of the pipe is going to be borne by other districts that are going to benefit by this. In other words, Fishkill Plains will receive water from this pipe, Brettview, Revere Park, and Worley. So the Worley homeowners are not going to be paying the full cost of the pipe in Resolution 6 that the town board's selecting as the preferred route. You're only going to pay based on the amount of water that will be attributed to your consumption. The last resolution on the agenda tonight sets the public hearing to consider creating the Worley Homes Sewer District that we've spoken about often. And as part of the map plan and report that can be finalized after the town board makes its decision about this pipe, will be available prior to that public hearing. And that public hearing is on the district itself and the course of that district.
Okay, I'm just curious, it kind of deviates from the questions I had here. For that public hearing, because it encompasses Worley Homes, Fishkill
Only
Plains-
Worley Homes.
Only Worley Homes? will-
Only Worley Homes is the public hearing. The
Only
water improvement area, which would be Resolution 6, is already established by the town board, already has funding in it, and it will construct this transmission, what do you call it, number 2?
Transmission main.
Yeah, transmission lane. And that connection with this transmission lane opens up the supply of water to feed all those districts that I've just mentioned.
Okay,
So if 5 districts will be benefiting from that transmission line, then the cost would be divided up by usage by those 5 districts.
And then what we had said previously is that we looked at, had we gone down Tina Lane, what that expense would have been, and that Revere and Worley Homes their share won't exceed that. We wanted to make sure that they won't exceed had we taken that other route.
That's right, that's right. And also this way, we can have other users jump on board, like commercial users, we could add them into out-of-district
It's
users.
a more expensive project, but we have more people benefiting from it.
Which will then reduce the cost to the homeowners.
okay, because I understood, maybe I misunderstood at the last meeting, that that would not be the case if there are other users, that it would not necessarily reduce the cost. And I might have misunderstood at the last meeting.
The more users, the
The more
better. The
users
more
you
More
have,
users
the better,
drives
and
down the cost.
it would drive down the
Yes.
cost.
Right, but it's
Okay.
something to keep in mind on that cost. Last year, I think the Office of Audit Control had a threshold number of $958 a year.
Right,
And that's the number we originally had been working with previously. In 2018, that was reduced, I think it is to 905. So, we need to trim to get below that 905, and hopefully, this
the
will
905.
accomplish that.
Now, that 905, is that the bond, the
Annual.
loan amount, or is that the amount that includes the water bill as well?
That's your total water bill.
That's the total water bill, and the bond amount is still seven.
No, that's included in that, right?
That would be your
That's your
all-in
total bill.
cost,
Everything all
905.
in is
Everything is, but
905.
905.
it's 905. What's the bill that's due at property tax time?
That's included in that.
That's
Yeah, that
included.
would be included
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
water rate.
Yeah, a portion of it would be in your tax, part of it would be in a quarter bill, but the total, aggregate total would be 905.
Okay, the aggregate code would be 905,
More or
but the
less.
bill, the amount that would be due at tax time would be what, 7,
Well,
I don't have
That would be
number.
minus water usage?
minus
Right.
water usage?
We'll
because it's-
discuss that at that public hearing. You'll get all that
Oh,
then.
at the public hearing?
Yeah, when
Which
the
is
map plan
next
part
month.
is done, you'll have all that.
Next
yeah.
month?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and since we're talking about dollars and cost savings, et cetera, which is really music to my ears, and I know that, Nick, you had mentioned that the town is looking at various state and other grants. I'm just focusing on one that seems to be one that we have the greatest possible success at, and that's the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant, which the indications that we should be encouraged to apply for that. Because of the efforts.
We probably did already. I know my planner has applied for, I don't know, 6 or 7 different grants, not only just for water and for Worley, but for all different, and if anything had to do with water improvement or water quality, we added in Worley Homes into those applications. But what was the name of that one?
I just want to add, though, that...
WIA, Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant. I think the
I
application.
believe that one there, though, the district has to be formed before we can apply.
It's a question of completeness of the project
Right.
in order to apply.
Right. The district has to be
Which
formed,
makes
which we
it,
haven't
you know, a
formed yet.
little
So
more of a
the district
challenge.
isn't formed yet until after the public hearing.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is the good news, even though the application, they're not taking applications at this time because applications, you know, is closed, but there'll be another round of applications. That's been indicated. It's also been indicated that, you know, we are, again, encouraged to apply, which is a plus. That's not a guarantee, obviously. Grants are not guarantees. Okay, they're
No, but they like to see readiness to perform the job, and we're almost at the point where we're ready to do the job. So that is encouraging for grants to hopefully approve us.
right. Well, again, the state was very positive in terms of, so please do not go running around talking about, yes, we're guaranteeing anything, only that because of the efforts of the town to include Worley Homes in the project that increases our score, makes us more likely, or makes the project more likely, including Worley Homes, to be able to be potentially a grant recipient, which brings those tax dollars back into the local economy. And if the homeowners, the district doesn't have to send tax dollars out to service that loan, those dollars can stay in the local economy.
Of course.
So it's a nice multiplier effect. So if we can get that grant to reduce the cost to the homeowners, okay, we can keep the dollars, more dollars back in the local economy, and plus bring those tax dollars back to the local economy. And that's what we're looking for. So I'll be singing the WIA song for a while. We'll keep doing that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack Queen. I live in Worley Homes, too.
Hi, Jack.
And I had a couple of questions as far as the project and the water for Worley Homes. Currently, there's 6 4- and 3-inch pipes feeding Worley Homes water. Are any of those pipes going to be replaced as part of this project?
Approximately 3,900 feet of the smaller diameter pipes.
Of the 6-inch or
We're going to focus on the smaller diameters,
the 3-inch?
3 and a 4.
3-inch or 4-inch?
There may be some 6 as well, but I know the number from the top of my head is 3,900 feet total.
Okay, okay. And do we have an idea of how many feet are currently in place with these smaller pipes? Like what percentage of the pipes would be
It's in the map plan
replaced?
report what the total is. I don't recall exactly what the total footage is.
Okay, well, the percentage, do we have any idea of percent
Yeah,
now?
it's in the report. I don't have it on top of my head, but we have the
Okay,
information.
okay. And the other question I had was it's going to be a public meeting,
Yes, sir.
and I assume at some point after that, there's going to be a vote on creating the North,
District.
Hopewell North, I think it is. How does that vote going to work? Is it a majority of the people that show up, majority of the homeowners?
We vote.
The way it is that after the public hearing, the town board then decides if they're going to approve the district. They would vote, and if it's approved, then there's a 30-day time period within which residents can file a petition to request that there actually a vote of the residents of the district. If the town clerk receives that within 30 days, then the town board has to schedule a vote of the property owners in the district to come and vote.
Okay, so the homeowners have to petition the board.
If they want to have it voted on by all the residents, yes.
Okay, and how many people have to petition the board?
I believe it's the owners of 10% of the total assessed value. We'll have that number in the report too, but I believe it's 10% of the assessed value. 10% of the owners of, no, it has to be the owners of 10% of the assessed value in the district.
So, sir, if the homeowners aren't happy with what the town board wants to do, with forming the district and buying out the water company, and then you becoming part of the town water district, then you would want to do that vote.
Okay, all right.
If not, you don't have to do anything.
Okay, because originally, and maybe we misunderstood, is that the homeowners would be voting on,
Only
Whether
if you
to
don't
create the
like,
district.
yeah, only if you don't
Okay,
like
that's
what we want
after
to do,
the-
right?
after the board vote, then?
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hey, Michael?
Michael Wallers. Nick, I know I stopped in and discussed it with you a little bit ago, but I'd like to know where we stand with the Hillside Lake proposed plan that was rejected by Dutchess County.
Well, it wasn't rejected, they didn't like certain aspects. Right now, we reaching out to the expert, a environmental expert. Our engineer has got a little sidetracked with that since our big storm 2 weeks ago, but we are going to meet with him and Mr. Gruber again to discuss how we can facilitate getting the proper permits to do I'd like to move up the grant quicker, since certain things aren't going to come the way we wanted them with the DEC. But we're going to discuss that all, and as soon as I do meet, I'll give you a full report, everybody, on
Who is
the
that
meeting.
expert? Is it David?
I have his name. Do you remember? Is it Whitney?
David Whitney.
David Whitney, yes. So he was very good when we went to the DEC.
Yeah, he did the presentation.
So I'd like to get him, I'd like to get him separately than from Stephen Gruber, because he's very expensive.
We don't want them just pushing the Renewage project. It's a bigger scope.
And and because if I use him through Stephen Gruber, I have to be billed through Stephen Gruber. I want him on
Makes sense.
on our own.
It makes sense. How does that affect the date? So June 30th, we're supposed to be officially dissolved. Is that still-
That has nothing to do with the dissolution, I believe,
June
right, Tom?
30th, we are still officially dissolved.
Done.
Is there a document, a letter that comes from the state comptroller or someone that says?
Well, what will happen on the 30th is we'll file a copy of the resolution dissolving it with the state controller.
Okay.
And sometimes, usually 4 or 5 months later, you get a letter acknowledging receipt of the resolution, and that would be it.
Right. Nick, is that something we could put on the website as soon as it's available?
Absolutely, yeah.
So people can see it? And I know, and maybe it was just a miscommunication, you said in I believe it was the last meeting or the meeting before, that the town owns the lake now.
Well, June 30th.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought. Okay. One of the things, other thing I wanted to discuss is item number 9, set a public hearing regarding the Hillside Lake Septic Protection Law for June 28th.
Right, yes.
We've heard it mentioned in the past. I questioned it probably 4 years ago when we met and had a Renewage presentation, I was told.
So we have found out now that there's dollars available to replace septic systems.
Right.
Dutchess County will administer the dollars, and Hillside Lake and Sylvan Lake were the only two
Right. I heard
areas.
that part, yep.
So to help facilitate that and to keep the program going, I discussed with Walter Artis and a couple other experts about, because sometimes that this program then falls by the wayside. So if there's a lot of interest and we do proactive measures like this, then it could grow. So, and not only that, we could get on the hook for other grants because we're doing these proactive measures. And unfortunately, just yesterday, I think, we found 3 illicit discharges into the lake, and unfortunately, those homeowners had to be, written up and everything else. Our highway superintendent was there, our MS4 coordinator, and, so it's time, yeah.
I asked the question because it seems like this is jumping the gun here. If June 30th is when you officially will own the lake, and you have not done anything yet to resolve the town's input of pollution into the lake. So right now, we're focusing on, up until 2 days ago, the assumed septic leaching into the lake. There was nothing proven, although some human bacteroids were found in one storm basin.
Well, I know that, well, we've been talking about this for many years, and finally, we're at the point where we're moving forward.
Right. I'm
and it
not
came-
trying to
right, yeah,
stop that
and-
at all.
And I'm just giving my opinion that.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, and I think that it just came up with the funding, it came up, and then we had more discussion, we says, you know, what are we
Right.
gonna wait for?
Right.
Let's
There
just
was-
do it.
And if I could, there was another comment from the DEC, because it was in our schedule, that original schedule, to get this law enacted, and that was one of the DEC's comments, like, why are you waiting so long? So they wanted to see that pushed up, so.
But perhaps when you adopt something like this, there should be a stormwater sediment infiltration cleaning order or law for the Hillside Lake watershed as well, meaning the deep sumps around the lake have to be pumped once every 2 months or something, very frequently, to make sure it's not, or, as we've discussed, completely divert that water out of there.
Well, there's going to be a public hearing for this, right? So, I mean, all
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
things
but
can
there's
be
only
discussed.
2 weeks from the point that it comes out to the point that there's a public hearing.
Well,
And
I'm
it's
hopeful-
all happening before you own the lake.
Well, the deep sumps are in our plans no matter what, and
Right.
hopefully, you know, with this, hopefully we could get more grants like the one we received and, you know,
But
more
the
of the
thing we're working
filtration,
on-
because it only captures a certain percentage of the filtration, and if we could get 3 or 4
20%.
of those projects, then
I just-
we got something cooking.
Excuse me, I just would like to add, though, we're working right now, we have the permit to remove the sediment, which we're going to move forward with that this year.
Oh, yes.
We're making, right now, currently, I think it was like last week, we submitted a new permit application to put, I believe, 3 of those little micro treatment areas in at those locations where we are going to do that sediment removal. So, I mean, we are still working. I think what we learned at the meeting is instead of trying to submit a whole big plan to the DEC that's going to get bogged down, we're going to try to take the lowest hanging fruit that we can and try to start doing portions of that plan and then leave the bigger thing for the end, so.
What is
we
the
are moving forward with that.
what is the proposed date for removing that sediment that the town claims responsibility for? Because we've been hearing about it for a couple of years now. I know you have the permits for it, so I don't know when they expire, but
The plan is at the driest point of the year to do it,
August?
potentially.
Okay. And will the lake be drained down?
But what we
at
do
that
want to
point?
have in place is that other permit that allows us to put the little wetland
Right.
detail at the end of it, so we don't have to
Okay.
do it twice. And we're hoping we can get that in that amount.
You know, we trying to get the most bang for our buck right now, because unfortunately, like I discussed, if an unforeseen something happens and, you know, dollars I have in highway, you know.
That's what I'm saying. You
Exactly,
utilize
now I
highway,
just,
utilize it when you
utilize a lot of those dollars that I wanted, so I told him, let's come up with something where we could get something going here that's not gonna cost us so much, because this year, you know, our dollars are gonna be lessened because of the storm. So he says, well, let's get the sediment removed, we could do that right away, let's push up the project, he'll talk to the expert, and hopefully.
And I don't know if were you able to get out there and see what I called sand barges before the lily beds came in on North Hillside Lake?
I didn't,
Where, you know, where Sunset and all those houses back there come in. That's what I had mentioned to you, if you could grab at least that drain and divert it
Right.
outside of the lake somehow. And I know Scott had said, you know, you can't get a pipe, what size pipe? We're talking 18 wouldn't be enough, but you could
Oh,
put
we
8,
ran that exercise, I don't know if it was a 4-foot pipe or a
whatever it
5-foot
was.
pipe, whatever it was.
You can put a 4-foot and a 3-foot next to each other. You can put 2 4-foots. You don't just have to go with one larger pipe
Right,
that you can't
right.
get deeper. You can
All it
put,
takes is money.
you can put 10 4-inch pipes. I don't care.
All it takes is money.
All it takes is money, and we have the highway department luckily that can go in there and create that.
Well, you try and utilize the highway as much as possible.
Even-
And so everybody knows the, you know,
Just-
the
just-
septic protection law
I wanna
is
take a-
going,
Excuse me, I want to take a step back in that. When we talked about that piping scenario, we had talked about filling in around the perimeter of the lake to have a route for that pipe to go. Because now you got houses and septics and wells and everything. So we had to create new land to run that pipe through. Well, Army Corps has come back and said you cannot diminish, you cannot fill in.
they
you
did
cannot
mention that, yes.
in any way, shape, or form diminish the footprint of that lake by filling. Now, you can breach the dam and just let it turn into a wetland. Everyone seems to be okay with that. But in terms of filling to create a path for the pipe, Army Corps nixed that. So that
So you
puts another
cannot
wrinkle.
change the actual perimeter
That,
of the lake.
I'm sorry?
You could not change the actual perimeter of the lake? You couldn't make it a smaller lake, they're
By
saying?
filling, by filling. We
But you would
can't
just be
recontour
pushing.
the lake and push the dirt up, which was part of that pipe
Yeah,
plan.
right,
Had we
right.
pursued that pipe plan was to make, an area to run that pipe, because you can't just have pipe running
Yeah,
exposed
because
to the
if we
lake, you know.
displaced water, they told us that we had to mitigate it somewhere else, like to fill in the swimming area. So it was, but what I didn't understand was if there was a breach of the dam and all the water went, I says, how do you replace the water then?
Comes a natural wetland, and
Yeah.
they're happy with that.
So you could do that, but you can't,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
didn't make, a lot of it
it's.
doesn't make sense. And
But
what I
to my
heard-
other
What I
point-
heard from you.
To my other point was the septic protection law will encompass the whole Hillside Lake watershed, not just
Okay,
those
what
roads.
is the Hillside Lake watershed? Because I don't believe
There's a
I've ever
few-
seen an Hillside Lake
Oh,
watershed.
there'll be a map at that public
It's
hearing.
something that's
We'll
being.
have a map up on the
It's something
screens.
that's being created, though.
We have a
Right
map.
now, there's not a Hillside Lake watershed.
Oh, no, we have a map of it. We have a
Yes,
map.
I guess there's some adjoining roads that also
Because-
contribute to.
Right, 'cause
Yeah,
I
so
know,
they
like-
will be
Public hearing.
included in that.
Other developments on the side of us are included in Hillside Lake per the census.
We can even try to
When
get
they-
that on the website prior
When
to.
they talk about Hillside Lake, say, by the census, they're including a couple of developments over and, up, I think it's Marie Court, up that way. Those are
Somewhere,
actually.
yeah, I think some of the, I think
And
that's
that's
right.
where the income level of the average Hillside Lake
Went up.
resident goes up.
Right.
Because it's really not just what we know as Hillside Lake.
We can get
And
that
the home
posted
values and
ahead of
all
time.
that. And I don't know if there's any way to correct that with the census and say, this really isn't Hillside Lake. And maybe that'll help us down the road.
Right.
By really looking at what the
gonna have to
incomes
find
and the,
We
the
did an
house.
income,
true
yeah, an
house
income
values of
study, right.
Hillside Lake
But
are.
this would result in adoption of a defined
Right.
watershed map. So that's what you're saying.
Okay.
So then when you apply for money, this is.
Yeah, I
the
understand.
geographic area.
Right,
So it's a double-edged sword.
true.
I think the other part, back to the law, as we kicked it around internally, okay, so you have grant money available, it's a 50-50 share. Okay, now who qualifies? How do you pick who's gonna get that? So by doing these inspections, and having it recorded, and what's failing, what's not failing, to narrow down who's qualified to get this money, and do we have a waiting list behind these people? So I would encourage everybody to do it sooner rather than later, and to be eligible to get in line.
Right, absolutely.
And we may wind up with a point system. You score 10 points, you score 6 points, so 10 points comes first and so forth. So, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of details that we haven't even shook out yet to know who's gonna qualify and how this money's gonna get spent.
Some of the variables, I think, where it's not fair to the single person that lives in a house with a 500-gallon septic tank,
And
who
then
doesn't
fam-
need it pumped every 2
Right, and a
years.
family of 5 that,
Then you
yeah.
have 20 people living in a house with a 500-gallon septic tank who need it pumped probably twice a year.
Yeah, we
And
went
may
through
go
the
into a
same.
point system to see who goods.
Right.
Yeah, but he's
then
saying
you
with the
got
law, to
part-time
pump the
people.
septic, he means.
Behind me, the guy comes up on the weekends only.
We did the same
So-
thing with the, East of Hudson when we did that. It was the same scenario where.
Right, so
everybody,
yeah.
yeah.
There'll be
Yeah.
a sliding rule, for lack of a better
So,
term.
we'll
sliding
have
scale.
to, in the law,
In
we'll have
terms of who
to.
qualifies for the,
Well, I mean, in terms of how often people would need to be, I mean, is inspection and pumping going to be
but just think
two
about that.
separate
If you
things?
have a sliding scale and today one person lives in that house, and you say, okay, you don't have to pump yours for another 5 years. Well, next week she sells the house and now a family of 5 moves in.
Well, right, but that's,
For us to
that's public
police,
record.
but for us to start policing that,
Yeah,
Isn't
we
there
don't do
some kind of-
that.
it just
Some-
becomes so cumbersome, from a practical standpoint.
Isn't there currently a septic law for when a house is sold, though? I thought there was some kind of septic law. that
No,
was-
there's a
Well
well
test.
test.
Well, okay, I'm confusing the two. All right.
And there's no exception. It doesn't matter if there's one person in that house or 5 people in that house, you do your well test. you know.
Right, it's just how I'm thinking of it, that, it's unfair to those people, whereas, I mean, and if you're gonna do that as a sliding rule somehow.
tax is unfair,
To
too.
decide how often
The
the people
septic's
need to
designed
do
by
it,
bedrooms.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe it does have to be tracked.
I mean, we don't have the manpower to, it is what it is. But we'll have the discussion at the,
Yeah, I mean,
at the public hearing.
Currently,
It's definitely
I'm
not a
not-
perfect system.
right, I'm not sure if everyone's aware of that. I believe septic tank sizing is based on the number of bedrooms, not the number of people.
Right,
Correct.
And a bedroom has to have a window and a closet.
correct.
I'm sure there are plenty of rooms that are being
Without.
used as bedrooms that don't have a closet. Okay, so, that's it's always been a workaround for years that people, hey, I'm not gonna put a closet in, I'll put an armoire.
Well,
But at the end of the day, though, if everyone has to comply, then that doesn't matter, because we
Right.
certainly can't go start evaluating who's got a bootleg bedroom in there. you know?
But-
Well, you can't get into people's houses and tell them to let me go see.
But
if
quite
my
frankly,
bedroom.
those of us who live up in the east of Hudson watershed, we're under the provisions of a law already.
That's New York State.
So you
water.
get, it's for New York City watershed, the town has to administer it,
Right.
but there are rules there, we have to have it pumped, we have to have it inspected. But once you pump it once, then the pumping becomes in the judgment of the company that's licensed to come and inspect it. So it's not like it's mandated that you must pump it.
Right.
Because if they come and they see that the level isn't at the level it has to be pumped, they don't pump it, but they do inspect the baffles and whatever else
So
is
the
under there.
inspection comes along with the pumping.
Yeah, and they have a certificate, and the guy
Not
checks
like
them
you have
off.
to get inspected every year.
No,
pump every 2
it's the licensed company
Yeah,
that does
because I
that.
know when they pump mine, they inspect it at the same
Right, right.
time. I mean, it could, well, let's hope it just doesn't create a sharp increase in the cost of pumping and inspecting septic tanks, being it's required by law. And the
Gouging.
septic companies the pumping companies are maintaining that record. So, it's just something to be aware of. I'm curious here, it says that the local law require cleaning of septic tanks and other rules. Can you elaborate on that at all?
I don't have that in front of me,
Well,
but.
it's the cleaning of them, the inspection of it, and then if they fail, then they have to be fixed. Okay.
All right. And, yeah, more so I just wanted to clarify that.
Once I get a meeting with the engineer, and I will give a full report.
On another item that could possibly tie into this comes conflict of interest. And I don't know, and I'm not accusing anyone, if there is any conflict of interest with anyone that works for the town, with anybody that owns a septic company that could be benefiting from this. So that brought me to looking into some things, and I know that under New York State Municipal Law, Article 18, I don't know the name of the document, maybe Mr. Wood can help me out, but I believe within 30 days of being elected or hired as a municipal employee, you have to fill out a conflict of interest. I'm gonna
That's for
call it-
towns of 50,000 or more. That
That's
doesn't
only for
apply to East
50,000 or
Fishkill.
more.
You have to
Doesn't
have a
apply to East
population of
Fishkill.
50,000 or more.
Okay, so a couple of years, we'll be there.
Right.
I'll be back.
You're ahead of the time.
My next question was, I'd like to see that.
50,000, that would almost double
Yeah,
us.
basically, you have to divulge your,
Yeah. holdings
you own
or
a
whatever.
pizzeria, so you're not gonna vote.
Well, I
if we're
think
gonna
the-
put another pizzeria in the town. You know,
I think the way that would be regulated is that that person has to be licensed septic person, number one. So when a certificate was presented to us and is signed by someone who's also an employee of the town, I think that would raise a red flag to us, that there could be an issue there. So I don't think anyone, if there is anyone in this scenario that's out there, works for us and has a company on the side, I think they would be well advised, obviously, to stay out of the Hillside Lake area, if the law was in effect. And if they didn't, as soon as we got the certificate, that would be a red flag to us. So there is a policing mechanism.
And just to jump back to that septic law, if it should pass, and the septic companies will be regulating and saying, hey, you're due, what happens if the person doesn't do it? Is it a warning system? Is it an immediate fine? Has that been thought out?
Is it, that's gotta be in the law.
That would
Well,
be in the law, so, you know, the
This will
law is
all
going to
be
be
at the public
available
hearing.
before the public hearing.
Okay.
You can come to the public hearing and point out all the problems that you have with it.
Do we currently have a septic watershed protection law for Red Wing Lake,
Red Wing,
around
No.
Red Wing Lake?
No.
Why not?
I don't know, we don't
People
have
swim
it.
in there. Nobody's swimming in Hillside Lake.
Well, for one, it's not an impaired water body, so.
Okay, it's right,
Well, it's governed by the Board of Health checks it.
okay.
It's a publicly
And that's true.
used
Right.
lake, the Board of Health is out there all the time
Right,
testing
but
the
why would we
water.
have it for Hillside Lake, which is,
That was private at the time.
no, I'm saying it's private. Now, it's going to become public.
But it's not nobody uses it for recreation.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So why are you so stringently saying we need to really adopt this septic watershed protection law for Hillside Lake, but you don't have it for a lake where people swim in?
Because we're trying to apply for more grants, and this will help us prove why we're trying to be beneficial to the whole watershed.
Okay. Because I just wanted to make clear, this is not something required. This is
No, it
something the
just helps
town
us-
wants to institute.
It just helps everything.
Okay.
Well,
But we're trying to solve a problem here. We all know we're trying to solve a
Of course,
problem.
though, I'm not.
We have nutrient loading in the lake.
Right.
Okay, we have a
And
lily
that's
pad
why-
infestation, okay?
Yeah.
We know we've had bacteroid positive results, okay? Now there's a grant program
But you left the
available
big
to
thing
us.
out.
There's a grant program
Left
available to us.
stormwater infiltration and
It's a-
sediment
it's
and
a
everything
303
else
And
that-
that's all part of the equation.
Right.
Okay?
And
we're gonna,
that's-
but we can't just leave out parts and pick and choose what we're gonna address,
But that's
okay?
what you just did.
We're not, why?
And I also,
Everything except the stormwater infiltration
No,
system.
we're filling out permits right now with the DEC to start putting in those other treatment systems. We have our grant for the ones, so we are moving forward with those projects. But
And that's
part of
what I-
that has to be the septics.
And
We
that's
can't
one of the
stick our
first
head in the
things I
sand
brought
about the
up.
septics.
that-
when we sat in the,
yes,
and when we sat up in New Paltz with the 10 or 12 staff of DEC, and as the supervisor said, we laid out, there's a PowerPoint laid out that this septic law would be done. They said, why are you waiting on that? We all know that's a major issue that you should address sooner. So,
Is there any of this documentation you could put online so people can get a better understanding of what's going on?
Of,
You're meeting with DEC and on the Hillside Lake,
but there's a whole
We
thing.
posted it.
I-
Didn't we give a
Did you
copy
post
out?
it?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's all
gave you the
posted.
copy, didn't I? I sent you.
Oh, you
the-
sent me an email.
Yeah.
That's it? That's
That
what it
was
is?
all
Because he
the
said it was a
notes, that was the
PowerPoint.
notes of the meeting.
But we
in
gave a
detail.
PowerPoint presentation. It was
Oh,
basically the
okay.
same presentation we gave all the
To
rest
the
of the.
community.
The one you did
and-
here?
yeah.
Okay, okay. But just, Scott, just to answer your questions, it's one of the first things I mentioned, is that if you're imposing this septic watershed protection law on the residents, you also have to take onus to what the town's highway stormwater conveyance system is contributing to it.
But it-
And really step up and act upon that.
And we are doing that, and the town will own the lake come June 30th, and
But just,
I know we're
Take
moving
all-
forward and we're trying to
just
do
be
it. I'm
clear.
not saying we're not doing that, but I'm saying these should be simultaneous, these should be side by side.
right, but again,
I guess the best
if a
we
claim
can.
is that our pipes are conveying the septic into the lake, well, then the pipes are not generating that septic. Do you agree?
I'm not saying, I'm not concerned about the pipes generating, bringing
Right, the
septic
pipe,
into
the
it.
pipe's not
I'm
generating
thinking of the
it.
pipes
It's being
bringing oil
generated
and anything
somewhere,
else.
and we got to get to the source. We have to get to the source.
As I said, I'm talking about the conveyance, the miles of conveyance system that are bringing anything and everything that gets in their path into the lake. Oils from cars, salt from the roads for miles, not just around the lake, for miles. It's been said that there's one person that dumps their cat litter in one of the storm basins.
You know who that is?
I don't know who it is. I wish I did because I'd be knocking on their door.
Again, there's a
Again,
lot of,
that stormwater conveyance system brings anything that goes
Right.
into it directly into the
right,
lake.
and septic is potentially part of it, and we're going to try to do our best to identify.
Right. But we don't know at the moment if, say, I'll use Sunset, the end of Sunset, because I believe that's the furthest point from the lake. We don't know if there's failing septic tanks there that are going into the conveyance system and coming down. You've, in the past days, identified 2 or 3 just by smell or visual leakage or something like that, which we've been asking for years for that to be done. So I'm glad that somebody is proactive to do that, and it would be great if we would see more of that. One of the questions is that, there's a lot of other little parts of this, like part of Hillside Lake is on the other side of the mountain, the hill. It flows over there. So how can you impose it on those people?
Well, if they're not in the watershed, then they're not being imposed upon.
If you're on the other side of the hill, or you're in the watershed?
Either you're in the watershed or you're not.
So what is the
And we'll-
watershed, straight
We'll-
below
we'll-
you?
We'll put that
Probably,
map
yeah, you're
online for
probably
you.
right, probably that geographic area that flows right into the lake.
Okay,
And like
so,
you said, that neighboring road and probably a few
so
others,
it will
I'm
not be
sure.
a certain perimeter around the lake that this is
No,
imposed on?
No,
It'll be
it's a
every,
topographic boundary based
everyone-
on contours and which way the ground slopes,
okay,
and we'll try to get that online as soon
all
as
right.
possible.
And what are you looking at, like every 2 years
That's what we have
on
currently
average,
with.
unless we can do a sliding, some
Right.
kind of, if we can figure out
That
how
I
to do
would
that?
doubt, but we could talk about it at the public hearing
You
again,
know,
Mike.
okay. Just one last note on public comment. And as we all know, you eliminated the public comment after the meetings. And I'm sure you can be well assured that I'm not comfortable, I don't like that. That's, again, cutting out our freedom of speech, okay? And we've been down this road, okay? I would think it would be very beneficial to open that up to public opinion on that and let the public decide if there should be, or maybe even start out with that after the meeting, comments are only on things discussed in the meeting, on the agenda. The Hillside Lake thing is moving forward. That was taking up a lot of time, and I understand nobody wanted to stay here and listen to an hour and a half of us trying our best to get something done in Hillside Lake, okay? This is a new board up here now. And I think we can be pretty sure that there's not going to be hours of Hillside Lake discussion after meetings now. And that's what the majority of it was. But I think it's very important for people to be able to voice or ask questions about things that were discussed during the meeting. And a fine example of that recently, and I want to thank Manny for asking that Walter Artist stay to answer questions after the last meeting, because in the past years, that was never allowed.
I was going to
I called the man
allow
a
him,
puppet because your predecessor told me, not even him, that he's not allowed to speak. And that was just ludicrous to me. So I thank Manny for doing that. And as you see from that, it might have been hard to swallow, but we found out a lot. One, we found out that everybody didn't read the document they're signing, which is pretty bad. And I hope from that you guys all learned to read these documents that you're signing. But it allowed Mr. Damaso to come up here and point out some things that the average person wouldn't have noticed, especially if they didn't read the document. But even if they did, they might have passed right by it. And it allowed Mr. Artist to come back and rebut it and so on. Everybody learned from it. So I think it would be beneficial, and I'd like for you to consider to bring it back, and even if you limit it to just agenda items afterwards, not, beforehand is open for anything. Get them out the door, don't make people wait to hear about whatever anybody's personal grievances, Bobby's speed bumps. I'll use him as an example. But afterwards, there should be I would like for you to
appreciate your
consider
opinion. We appreciate your opinion.
having some questions and answers on things that might have been brought up. I discussed one of them with you recently in your office that came up, and I couldn't talk on it here, but it was discovered in the discussion between the board. It came up. I think open it to the public, let the public come and speak about it.
But the meetings are open to the public. Anybody could come and speak anytime.
Well, I'm saying let it be known that, hey, we're going to decide now, we want to hear from you about
We
this.
do.
Or
We come. You
was
could
the
come and
other-
speak about it. If there's a hot topic, I'll have a special town board workshop. Have them come
But
in.
The other aspect of it is we can always do a petition.
Well, I think that
I don't want to go there,
I understand, but
but it's a simple request.
Okay, I
to
appreciate
allow-
you.
I know you're trying to be transparent and you're answering questions. That's great. I'm very impressed that there's this back and forth that was lacking for 12 years and just became, I'm not even going to say a peep about anything from up there. But I don't think you should eliminate afterwards, especially to allow people to clarify things for the minimal, at least.
Right, and
of
you know,
what is
it's
discussed
and
amongst you
it's,
up there.
you
Because
know, it's a matter of opinion, I guess, and you're
some
right.
things do come up in your discussion among the board when you're voting on stuff.
Yes.
That raises questions to
Yes, they
people.
do, and we discuss it. And it's funny you mentioned this. We do email exchange with the mayors and supervisors in Dutchess County, and somebody asked about, do you have a time limit for speaking? So there was 25 comments that came up. We have a 3-minute, the town of Beekman just passed a 3-minute limit, and you have to sign in with the town clerk. You have to speak on agenda items only. You have a 3-minute, we don't know that, we don't have any of that. I think that is a lot, that the
Shouldn't
people
need it.
could come up, speak about what they want, they don't have to sign in with the clerk.
Right.
We don't have a time limit. I give a great ample time for them to speak. If it's a hot
But it's
topic,
before the
I'll
hand.
even let them speak more.
Before,
Well, that's the agenda
That's-
that I
that's what I'm
have.
saying.
That's the agenda I have.
that's what I'm saying, it's before the discussion amongst yourselves.
Well, we agree
where
to
learn
disagree.
things.
We
We
agree to
learn things
disagree.
when you discuss things up there openly,
Right, but the only thing
that
we're
brings up other
discussing is
questions.
what we vote upon,
right?
right, after this point.
Right.
Right.
But, so, I am assuming you do want to hear the public's opinion,
They
though,
could
on how
come,
they feel
yeah,
about
they come next
how you
meeting and
voted.
discuss it.
So,
Or they
Yeah.
can call us or
Again.
email us.
And I do get many calls too, Mike, so
Again.
you know.
please consider it.
Yeah, thank you.
Even if you limit it to only things that were discussed up there. You could, I think, aside from my time, however long I've been up here, discussing many
30
things,
minutes.
there have not been long, drawn-out discussions
Thanks, Michael.
since you've been up there, so.
Good evening. Much of what was said alleviated some of what I was going to say and inspired some others. So it's pretty brief. The first thing that I would ask is has there been any more discussion or thank you, or have we gotten any closer to a method of acquisition of the grant money for the septic systems? Has there?
Yes, Dutchess County legislature had to pass the law to administer the dollars that are given, and we're in receipt of that. The engineer has had his assistant call the Board of Health to see who is going to be administering that. At first, they didn't have anybody. Then we suggested that we could administer it to facilitate a quicker process. Then they looked into the law that was passed with the legislature, and that's not allowed. So right now, I was just talking with Dutchess County legislator John Metzger about it, and I found a copy of, which I have here, a copy of the Environmental Facilities Corporation administers the dollars for the East of Hudson program. They have a larger program where it's, they could get reimbursements up to $25,000. So I told the legislature, maybe they could enter into agreement with the Environmental Facilities Corporation to be the provider of these dollars or the facilitator. So they're looking into it.
So it's
Soon as
still being formulated.
As soon as
They-
we know, I will get the information out as much as I can.
Is there anything that the general public can do as far as making phone calls to
I guess they
anybody?
could call Dutchess County Board of Health and say that I live in the area that has been pinpointed, like Hillside Lake, and I have problems with my septic, and how can I get these dollars that are out there?
Okay. Secondly, regarding the pumping and inspection,
We'll discuss all that at the public hearing.
it's kind of generic.
Okay.
And that being, and I don't know, Nick, if you'll have the answer, but perhaps Mr. Wood or Mr. Bryant may, are those inspectors, are they licensed to do that everywhere in New York State, east of the Hudson, obviously, or are they only licensed and accepted by municipality?
No, I believe the license is issued by the DEC or the Department of Health, and you need that to be a licensed hauler, and that is part of that licensing process. If initially you want to take a look in the town code for the east of Hudson regulations that the town adopted, I think it's going to be very similar to that. I mean, we may have to tweak it for the area.
But generally speaking,
But-
you would be looking for that particular type of inspector with that kind of credential?
I never change companies. The company I use, I forget the name of it, they're licensed, they have the form, they know what kind of form has to be done. You just go on a program with them, they come and they do it, they leave you a copy, they file a copy, it's
Is there a letterhead on that particular
Yeah,
form?
it's,
Oh, okay, so, and the license and number,
the
obviously.
license number,
Oh, okay.
everything's on it, yeah.
I
So-
don't think this is the first time they've done this, so.
No, I'm sure, I know it's been in law for some time. What I'm trying to get at is so that there'd be no gouging.
Right,
And.
I'm
where
sure
I
they're
was-
regulated and.
That's where I was
I'm
going.
sure if there's complaints that the state or the DEC that issues the permit will come
Okay.
down heavily on that.
That's where I was
More than
going,
one
is
company.
if in
Yeah.
fact they're state regulated
Right.
as far as what they charge to
But there's tons of,
do that.
I mean, there's many companies that do it, it's not, so if you're dissatisfied with the price, you shop around like
Shop
anything
around
else.
like anything else, yeah.
Okay. And then regarding piping, what I was curious about is if pipe were to put in, whether it's 2/4s or, whatever the dimensions of the piping may be, could not that displacement of those pipes be made up as far as if you went deeper when you actually do dredging? I mean, if you're displacing, say, water capacity because you put the pipes in,
Not displacing water capacity, it's displacing the water surface of the lake. They don't want to displace that. They don't want to shrink that at all.
okay, so, so basically you're saying you can't change the footprint of the lake, I get that. So if the pipe were to run straight down the middle of the lake, you wouldn't be changing the footprint.
If I understand you correctly, if you were somehow drain the lake, and you'd have to grade the bottom of the lake in order to have a profile that the pipe would pitch, backfill that, and then fill the lake back up and have your pipes beneath. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you say backfill it, I don't know if you would anchor the,
It'd have to be anchored, because if there was nothing in it, they could pop up and float.
Sure,
So now you're gonna have concrete encasement, but
Right.
quite frankly, our plan was that we developed and everyone agreed to, didn't
Didn't
have
have any of
that. So
that,
we didn't
yeah.
pursue the engineering of that. We were on a different
That
course,
was-
so.
so potentially it can be done, putting pipes in without changing the footprint of the lake.
Well, I don't think we had in our plan anything like that.
No, but we don't have it in our plan now.
Yeah,
I mean,
that wasn't part of our
I was
plan.
just
Again, with
addressing
enough
the
money,
issue
just
that
about
was
anything can be
raised more
built,
than,
just so, you know.
and rather than a specific design. So, okay, that's it, thanks.
Thank you, Keith. Anybody else wish to speak on the agenda or any other town issues? No? Okay, with that,
Bobby, no comments?
oh, Bob? I think Matt has him there.
You leave us so
Thank you, Bob.
anticipated over here, we all on a seat,
Nothing for receipt and file, right, clerk? Nothing? No. And no public hearings tonight. We'll start with resolutions. Resolution number 1, appoint the water and wastewater manager from civil service. So, the water and wastewater manager was appointed provisionally until the civil service test came, and he's reachable on the town engineer civil service list. His name is Bill Monero. He's worked for us for a few years now. He is on the list, and I would like to make him official. Does the town board hereby appoint Bill Monero to water and sewer wastewater manager as per the salary listed by the town engineer's memo? Do I have a motion?
Second?
Second, motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill's great, too, by the way. He does a lot of work. Number 2, Councilman, Deputy Supervisor, can you read that?
Update the in-town employee manual. Whereas the employee manual is previously established, and whereas the town board has from time to time deems it necessary to make additional changes to the employee manual, now therefore be resolved that the town board add a social media policy shall be included in the manual, and be it further resolved that the attached document is hereby attached to and made part of the employee manual.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to add the
Social media policy.
Yeah, I'm just changing, I wanted to see if I wanted to change the social media policy to the employee manual.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 3, designate consulting engineers, Councilman Franco.
Whereas the town board has recently accepted state funding for 80% of the cost of the replacement of the Carroll Drive Bridge, and as part of the process with the state, the town must choose a consulting engineer from amongst those approved by New York State DOT. The town interviewed engineering firms, and whereas the town engineer is recommending Hudson Valley Engineering for this project, now therefore be it resolved that Hudson Valley Engineering of Beacon, New York, be and hereby are selected as the consulting and design engineers for the Carroll Drive Bridge project. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor be and hereby is authorized to enter into an agreement retaining their services in accordance with the scope previously submitted to the town board.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to approve the consulting engineers for Carroll Drive Bridge project?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. So we have Councilman Beekman and the engineer and the comptroller did the interviews, and they were very happy with Hudson Valley Engineering. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Town Supervisor, I will recuse myself from voting on this matter.
Okay, we have one recusal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
One recusal. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that's number 4. Okay, number 4, bond reductions, Hopewell Glen and Saxon Woods. Councilman Marinaro, could you read that?
Whereas there was a bond from Talm Brothers Incorporation that was previously posted for the Opal Glen Phase 4, and there was a bond previously posted for Saxon Woods. And whereas the planning board has voted on May 15, 2018, to reduce the bond for the Opal Glen Phase 4 from $1,218,794 to $458,200, and Saxon Woods from $718,600 to $248,200. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does agree to reduce this respective bond as recommended by the planning board. Be further resolved that the town attorney shall approve the bond, the above bonds.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to approve the bond reductions for Hopewell Glen and Saxon Woods?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, number 5, lawn mowing bids. Deputy Supervisor, can you read that?
Whereas the town is responsible for mowing and maintaining cemeteries within the town that has been previously abandoned by the owners. Whereas the town is responsible for providing mower services and special districts for the town and special districts for the town with those districts. And whereas the town clerk advertised for the receipt of bids with request to providing mower services within the town. After those bids were received, it is the desire of the town board to consider the award to Beech Tree Holdings, and hereby is awarded the mowing bids for Lomala Park District as well.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion to award the bids for lawn mowing services?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
This is the same company that we've had for the last 2 or 3 years?
Yes. I did.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 6, the transmission, very important. So we had our water engineer, John Lazzaroni, come last month. He gave a description of the 3 water routes that we're choosing for our water improvement area project, to include Worley Homes. And we discussed that in length. And the best route we feel is along Route 376, connecting Fishkill Plains at Shadowwood Road. It'll be an 8-inch line. And I think it's going to be very important to get this done. It's going to help many, many different water districts. So do I have a motion to designate the route for the water transmission connection?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Again, Town Supervisor, I will recuse myself from voting in this manner.
Thank you,
because
Councilman.
There's some family members alongside the route over there.
Thank you for telling us. So do I have a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. One recusal. Motion passed. Thank you. Number 7, use of the fields for the car show. Councilman Marinaro, could you read that?
Whereas the Sons of Italy conduct their annual car show to provide to raise funds for charitable purposes, whereas a written request has been received by the town for the event to take place on July 29, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in front of the McGrath Field in the parking lot behind the community center. And now therefore be it resolved that the town police, town recreation department, and all other agencies of the town are authorized and directed to allow the use of the McGrath parking lot by the Sons of Italy on July 29, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Be further resolved that this consent is subject to the receipt of a certificate of insurance from the Sons of Italy, indemnifying the town for any liability arising out of their use of the McGrath parking lot and/or surrounding areas.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, do I have a motion to authorize Sons of Italy Car Show?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 8, seasonal hires. Deputy Supervisor, can you read that?
Whereas the highway foreman has interviewed John Johnson, Michael Acera, and Frank Cicero as full-time seasonal laborers for the highway department. Whereas the highway foreman is submitted to the member to the town board, therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby acknowledge the hiring of these 3 individuals as full-time seasonal laborers in the highway department. And be it further resolved that they will start at the end of May, and upon completion of the task, they will remove from the payroll.
Okay, thank you. We'll have one change here to delete Michael Asare off of this list. I believe he did not call back when they called him for it, so it will just be John Johnson and Frank Cicero. Do I have a motion to accept those 2 as seasonal laborers for the highway?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 9, Councilman Franco.
Scheduling the public hearing to adopt a septic watershed protection law for the Hillside Lake watershed. As part of the town's efforts to assist in the preservation and rehabilitation of Hillside Lake, it is appropriate that the town consider implementing certain regulations within the Hillside Lake watershed. It is the desire of the town board to set a public hearing date at which the proposed local law will be considered. A draft of said local law will be available on the town's website and town clerk's office on or before June 15th, 2018. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board shall conduct a public hearing on June 28th, 2018 at 7 p.m. as part of its regular town board meeting to consider a proposed local law that would require cleaning of septic tanks and other rules with respect to the Hillside Lake watershed. Be it further resolved that the town clerk shall have a copy of the local law available on the town website on or before June 15th, 2018, and shall give notice of said public hearing in accordance with the law.
Whew. Good job.
What's the matter?
I'm just saying, you read that
I
well.
read the whole thing.
Yes, you do. The clerk will be busy on that night for 2 public hearings. So do I have a motion to schedule the public hearing for June 28th at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion
Tom, do
carried.
we get to vote on that right after that meeting, or is it going to
It's
be?
your choice.
If
You
we
can either
want.
close that night and vote, or you can adjourn the public hearing, or you could close the public hearing and vote on it the next month, whatever you want.
Okay.
Number 10, part-time typist. Councilman Marinaro, can you read that?
Whereas the town is in need from time to time of temporary employees, commonly referred to as floaters, to assist in the clerical function necessary to operate town departments. Whereas the town clerk has interviewed applicants and recommends Nicole G. to the town board. Now therefore be it resolved that the applicant are hereby appointed as temporary part-time typist in the town, being paid at an hourly rate of $13.83. Being further resolved, the said typist shall work at the pleasure of the town supervisor in accordance with all previously established rules and regulations.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize the hiring of part-time typist?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 11 is authorizing temporary alternate water source for Fishkill Plains Water District. Like I discussed earlier in my announcements, we have a problem at Fishkill Plains where we need to rehab the wells there. So I am going to formally ask the Joint Water Board on Tuesday. Myself and the engineer will go up to Poughkeepsie to get permission to enter into the Dutchess County water line. This resolution is to help that along and to rehabilitate as part of the Dutchess County Board of Health regulations, and is sorely needed. We are currently bringing tankers of water into Fishkill Plains because the water isn't being recouped fast enough into the tank, and we definitely do not want any of the residents to go without water. There is a water advisory that we did send out there already to limit their water, or to have a water advisory not to use water unless needed. So this is sorely needed. So do I have a motion to authorize temporary alternate water source for Fishkill Plains?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I will recuse myself again from voting on this resolution.
All right, thank you.
I have, again, some family members that they live nearby.
Just a ballpark idea. Any estimate of what it's going to cost?
Of what it's gonna cost? For the rehab, for the connection?
For which one?
Or for both? Probably you wanna know for both, okay.
Oh, individually and then both, if you can add them.
The rehab is on the order of 40 to 50,000, that's our preliminary estimate, okay? If they get in there, what they do is when they go in and they do the first cycle of scrubbing and chemical treatment, they put the camera down there. Depending on what those results, and they may have to do a second wave of that, which, is a sliding scale what the cost will be depending on how much chemical they use and how many days they're there. So it depends on how they camera it and what the results are. So that's as far as the well rehab. With regard to the connection, we were trying to do it as inexpensively as we can, trying to utilize existing hydrants that are out there. They're pretty good separation between them, and we experience, losses in that smaller diameter pipe. The county and the health department really want a permanent connection, which we don't want to get into at this point. We're hoping the compromise is we're going to bring a new 10-inch line across Lake Walton Road, then reduce down to a hydrant, but at least that 10-inch would be a permanent feature that in the future, if it's warranted to make a permanent connection, the 10 inches there, but that we would just go from that new hydrant to the existing hydrant, and we're thinking that would be on the order of magnitude between the backflow prevention, the meter, some piping, and the crossing of Lake Walton Road. We're waiting on estimates right now, but, a range would probably be 30 to 50,000 on that. But then it would be in place.
Next one's really for Mark then. How does this get paid? I know it gets paid out of the district, but can this get bonded? I mean, we're gonna ask the 100 residents for $1,000 apiece at the end of the year because we spent 100 grand? Now, how do we break that down?
Sure, so, it'll be funded by the districts that benefit from this.
Right, no, I
firstly.
understand that.
Secondly, I think that we'll be able to fund this particular project from those districts' fund balance.
Oh, good.
So we won't need to borrow. That's good. It's for just this part.
Scott, the areas that should conserve water right now, could you kind of tell the community which one is affected by
It's not
this?
just Fishkill Plains, it's Fishkill Plains, Breadview, and Breadview 2.
Okay.
So that line is from all the way in the Dogwood Knolls subdivision to all of Breadview and to Serenity Way, Sleepy Hollow, Newhart Place, I think Marge's Way, and up through Presidential Way. So it's probably about 700 connections. And then you also have the businesses along the 376 corridor, Summerlin Plaza, and all those, the Goddard School, and all those other commercials along there. So it's a big area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One recusal. And motion passed. Thank you. Number 12, brush drop-off. Deputy Supervisor, can you read that?
Whereas the town of East Fishkill has requested proposals for the brush drop-off location, and whereas the proposals have been received and reviewed by the highway superintendent, and whereas the highway superintendent has made a recommendation to the town board as set forth as an attached schedule, now therefore be resolved that the following are hereby awarded the contract to Lime Kiln Road LLC, and be it further resolved that the program will run from June 1st, 2018 until June 30th, 2018, and in the fall from October 1st to October 31st.
Thank you, Deputy. Do I have a motion to award the brush drop-off location?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Well, there'll be more brush drop-off available for everybody.
I have a
At
quick
the-
question. Is the price increased from last year, or is it about the same, Mark?
Last year,
Doesn't have to be exact.
yeah, I
just
think it
rough.
was about 22,000.
So it went up about 11,000, right? Is it because more time open, or is just because?
I think it's because of the amounts,
The amounts, the
probably.
bidder said it was, that there's a larger amount that was asked for in this RFP than last year's.
Oh, in the
Supposed to bring
bid
in
docs.
Yes.
In the bid docs, it was for more, to accept more.
So there is
That's what it
a
was.
higher amount of?
Yes.
22.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Number 13, accept the letter of resignation for the retirement purposes of Chief Kevin Keefe. So our chief is retiring from our police department. Our chief, Kevin Keefe, he's been a police officer with our department for the past 34 years. We're very blessed to have him, and he has risen from the rank of a patrolman all the way to the chief of the department. And now he is intending to retire, and he has provided me with a letter of resignation. And we are going to accept that, and we have only gratitude and good wishes for the chief. And next month, I'd like to have a little ceremony here, right before the town board meeting, to show our recognition for the chief. In the meantime, his date will be June 20th. He will be retiring. In the meantime, we will have Lieutenant Orsino designated as the acting chief of police until the town board appoints a permanent successor. Do I have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. No budget transfers tonight?
Not tonight.
No budget left.
No additions to the agenda. Board member comments. Any comments from the town board? Councilman Marinaro?
Yep.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
have a little report from the police department. First of all, I want to thank everybody that participated and helped the whole community during the storm, especially the volunteer fire department. They did a great job, the highway department, and of course, the police department. They all worked together, and they did an excellent job. Many thanks from the community, and thanks for myself and the rest of the board. So, on May 10, 2018, officers were dispatched to a residence on Leonard Place, for a report of an home invasion. Officers were able to locate 4 subjects, aged 16 to 18. All of them were non-East Fishkill residents who were responsible for the incidents. All of the individuals charged with robbery and burglary, and they were sent to the Dutchess County Jail. During the most recent storm on May 15, 2018, the Town of East Fishkill Police Department responded to almost 100 calls for service for complaints ranging from trapped school buses trees falling into houses and several blocked roadways. Officers also assisted in checking on residents who were stuck in their homes and neighborhoods, checking on their welfare and notifying them of the location where resources were available for them. To the town of East Fishkill Police Department, would like to thank the town Highway Department and all its workers, along with Central Hudson, and of course, the fire volunteers, and all the numerous agencies that assisted with the devastating storm damage. On May 21st, 2018 through June 3rd, 2018 is the statewide Click It or Ticket. I don't like to read this, but I have to. Initiative. Residents are reminded that there will be a special patrol dedicated to locating and issuing tickets to drivers and passengers not wearing their safety belts. So, one advice, please, everyone buckle up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Franco?
Just quickly, I want to thank everybody for coming out to the Memorial Day ceremony. It was great as always, and it's great with everybody coming out. It's a really, really special day, and it was nice to see it very well attended. As you can see, the Hometown Hero banners are back up. We're very proud of that, and it's not too late to put a request in to get a banner. We still get them hot and heavy every single week. And a quick congratulations to the East Fishkill Soccer Club, who had their 40th annual Memorial Day tournament. They had 188 teams participate this year, which was a significant amount. So, and thanks to the police for all their work with them.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy?
No, you guys all talked about the highway. There's nothing left to say. They haven't done a thing in the last 3 weeks, he told me.
Yeah.
They did a good job. The highway's doing great, and he found all the roads again. And he spent all the money. That's why Posniak's got no budget.
Yeah, the storm did, it does
its
put a
toll.
dent in our budget. We will be having meetings with the highway superintendent and myself and the comptroller this week coming to talk about it. We did have a few cost savings with offering some comp time to employees, which some took it, and that hopefully will add up. But I thank all our agencies again, and I want to thank also, if I didn't mention it in my remarks, Central Hudson. So, you know, people get upset with them because, you know, they're without power and things happen. But for my perspective of what they've done with the town and their responses to me and all that I needed, they were very responsive to us, and I'd like to thank them. And also Dutchess County government, they were there. I asked for requests for equipment and all sorts of things, and they came through, and I put one more request out for a tub grinder, which they said that the state doesn't have them currently, but we're going to look somewhere else. Also, I'd like to mention again, the East Fishkill Historical Society has their Strawberry Festival this Sunday, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at the Brinkerhoff Historic Site on Kensington Drive. And thank you to all the calls I got, and I got a few emails for the Memorial Day ceremony. It was my first one, and I had a lot of nice comments. I appreciate them all. Keep them coming, and like I said, if you need any information, if I could provide it, my office is always available, 221-4303. You need whatever information you need, I will get it for you. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, meeting adjourned, thank you.
You know,
Gee, you couldn't tell I was happy.
you fight